the construction works that turned out to be an astonishing discovery. Unnoticeable writings on the walls that changed the traditional views of a relic. A crime that almost ruined the object of UNESCO World Heritage. 260 square meters of an 11th century mosaic, 3,000 square meters of the same period frescoes, monumental paintings of the 11th to 18th centuries. In addition, more than 1,000 graffitis of the respective period. All these elements create astonishing art and historic value for the major Christian relics of Eastern Europe, St. Sophia's Cathedral. Moreover, all these relics are shrouded in incredible mysteries. Ancient mosaics and frescoes, which are considered not only as an honor and property of Ukraine, but as well as objects of UNESCO World Heritage, could have not made it into this list. They were forgotten for many years, while many people didn't even know about their existence. Adrian Prohov, art historian, archaeologist, and art critic, came to investigate ancient churches in Kiev in the summer of 1880. His arrival coincided with the second stage of the restoration of the St. Sophia's Cathedral. Outlasted mosaics or the relic charmed Prohov. He spent all summer examining the antiquity. Soon after that, he received an offer to head the restoration work of the Kirillivska Church, to which he responded positively. Meanwhile, the work at Sophia's Cathedral was in progress. Restoration works there were supervised by Adrian Prohov as well. He worked on inspection of the interior, while masters worked hard on the exterior. In the arches of the north and south galleries, he discovered and extracted a silhouette of saints from the bricks. He found figures of Adrian and Natalia spouses in the north sections, and the Thessalonian martyrs Domnus and Philippol in the south section. He also claimed a figure of Mykola Mokry from Sud that was placed near the choir. He decided to engage in building works under the baths to learn more about in the summer of 1884. Arguably, no one believed in a positive outcome of this decision. The mosaic in the bath was twice covered with oil paintings. Even Petro Lebedintsov, historian, archaeologist, teacher, religious and public activist, an expert of Sophia's Cathedral, believed that the mosaics had vanished forever. However, Prohov was lucky enough to locate the monumental images of the Almighty, an archangel in azure clothing, and the Apostle Paul. Moreover, he found the image of the chief priest Aaron on the north side of the Ark of Triumph. The unique mosaics discovered by scholars were at the same level of mastery of the best specimens of monumental paintings of the Middle Ages. These colossal images in connection to mosaics of altar became the core surrounded by a system of cathedral decoration. Nevertheless, 3 archangels accompanying the Almighty were destroyed. Then the supervisor of the reconstruction works invited to Sophia's Cathedral Mikhail Vrubel, a painter who worked on the reconstruction of the Kirillivska Church. Vrubel was able to recreate the missing 3 archangels with a form of a mosaic image by using opaque brushwork that imitated stonework. The hallmark of this restoration was that the notion of ancient mosaics and frescoes was not reproduced by oil painting. Adrian Prohov knew the value of ancient fresco paintings. They opened to the world the largest side of architecture and monumental paintings, Solntsev to a lesser extent, while Prohov to a greater extent. Many people started to talk about ancient art as a 1,000-year-old creative phenomenon. Then Kiev relics were perceived as independent objects rather than simply a repetition of Byzantine monuments. However, the objects made by scholars and masters through hard work and time, were destroyed with the blink of an eye by the Bolshevik occupants of Ukraine. First and foremost, they bombarded Kiev in order to seize the capital of Ukraine. Nonetheless, the impudence and cynicism of ungodless people could not defeat the place made in glory of God. Kievans had one more proof that the ancient legend is true. Kiev will be safe, while Sophia is standing and has orange. The troops of Mikhail Muravyov started bombardment of Kiev after slaughtering youth under cruelty and sinking Ukraine in blood in early February 1918. Several missiles hit Sophia's cathedral, including the central apse above the right shoulder of the orange figure. The missiles destroyed the wall, but did not blow up Sophia's cathedral, and the orange figure kept standing tall. The blasphemy of those who will later call themselves liberators and a fellow nation only began with attempts to seize Kiev. They stole the golden chalice, 5 encolpions, 2 mitres, and other priceless antiquities from rich Sophia sacristy. They remelted the golden and silver objects into bars. The United Ukrainian Academy of Science rescued the cathedral from total demolition. The Academy created Sophia's committee that later would be reorganized into the Sophia Commission in 1918. Architects and engineers began scholar works on Sophia. They inspected the mosaics and frescoes. Scholars were preparing for transforming the building's status from a cultural to a museum object. Such a decision was the only measure to save the relic. Unfortunately, it was powerless before constant robberies. Sophia's cathedral almost faced the risk of demolition in 1934. The Bolsheviks wanted to build a pompous government center in the heart of the Ukrainian capital. There were plans to demolish Sophia's Cathedral, St. Michael's Monastery, and other sacred places. It is a miracle that no one had guts to demolish St. Sophia's Cathedral. It was sealed and turned into a state object of preservation. The miracle occurred once again 7 years later. However, this time it was with the help of human wits. The decision to withdrawal of troops was obvious even for untalented and stubborn communists after the defeat of the German soldiers in September of 1941. The Soviet regime dismissed both ordinary people and cultural sites in this process. In fact, one night the Soviet military came to the St. Sophia's Cathedral, looked for the guard, and asked about vaults. The guard realized the consequences of such a question and lied, saying that there are no vaults. Godless soldiers had no time to search for the location. While thinking that the cathedral will be demolished in any case, they left without implementing the explosive device. The St. Sophia's Cathedral would have vanished from the face of the earth in the same manner as the St. Michael's Monastery, had the guard not understood the dangerous situation. This event enables people to think once again about the Savior Orient and title above her. German soldiers continued vandalism of the communists during Nazi occupation. They stole showpieces, icons, mosaics, and photo archives and took them to Germany. At first, the architectural examination and restoration works were chaotic after the Nazis left the country. The works obtained a structure and a systematic form after establishment of the Methodology Committee under the Academy of Sciences of the USSR regarding the restoration of mosaics and frescoes of the St. Sophia's Cathedral. The systematic approach enabled to discover and examine frescoes of the 11th century and reconstruct frescoes of the 18th century. Scholars were able to revive the largest in the world mural painting ensemble of the first part of the 11th century. 260 square meters of mosaic from the 640 were preserved. This included around 3,000 square meters of frescoes. These numbers account for half of the total number. These events continued up until the 1970s. Therefore, the set of these actions enabled the ensemble of Sophia's Cathedral to be included on the list of UNESCO World Heritage. The St. Sophia's Cathedral repeats the story of its sanctification and its naming today. The cathedral was elevated in honor of Sophia in the name of God's wisdom. This notion incited many discussions among Christian scholars. According to the Apostle Paul, Sophia is one of the most complex and abstract categories which symbolically represent the figure of Christ and the embodiment of God's Word. However, later Sophia was associated with the Holy Mother. These universal Christian trends were reflected in the Kiev relic. The patronal festival of the St. Sophia's Cathedral was postponed to September 21, the birthday of the Holy Mother. Although everything was clear with the celebration, the construction of the cathedral still remained a mystery. In the primary chronicle, it is written that the St. Sophia's Cathedral was founded by Kievan Prince Yaroslav the Wise. However, the chronicle does not specify the date when the relic was built. The chronicle indicates the year 1037 as the moment when it was established, while a Novgorod source mentions two dates. One of them is 1037, the second is 1017. While this remains unproven and quite strange, this is not the end of the mysteries enshrouding this monumental structure. Ukrainian historian, cultural expert, museographer, and doctor of historical sciences Nadia Nikitchenko suggests that the Sermon on Law and Grace, written by Kievan and All Rus Metropolitan Ilarion, and the Chronicles of German Bishop Thietmar von Merseburg, written in 1018, reject the fact that the St. Sophia's Cathedral was built in 1037. In particular, according to Nikitenko, Thietmar narrates about siege of Kiev troops of Boleslav the Brave and his son-in-law Sviatopolk the Accursed, the son of Prince Volodymyr. The Kiev Metropolitan met the winners with the relics in the monastery of St. Sophia in August 1018, though the monastery was burned to the ground in 1017. The dedicated proponents of the notion that Yaroslav built the St. Sophia's Cathedral found an explanation for such a fact. They argued that there was a village of wooden homes that burned up in a fire, on the basis of which Yaroslav the Wise established a cathedral in 1017. Nadia Nikitenko explored the paintings of the St. Sophia's Cathedral and was shocked. All these narratives glorify not Yaroslav the Wise, rather his father Volodymyr Sviatoslavovich and his wife Byzantine Princess Anna. In such a manner, the church paintings were dedicated to its founder and patron. If analyzing the murals in the cathedral, it is Volodymyr who was the patron saint. However, there are no inscriptions that indicate a group portrayed as the family of Yaroslav the Wise. Moreover, frescoes have graffitis made in 1018, 1021, 1022, 1028, 1033 and 1036. How could they appear if the cathedral only emerged in 1037? Even if assuming that the date stated in the Novgorod source, that is 1017, is the date of the cathedral's establishment, it is impossible since there were no walls for graffitis to appear in 1018. These facts, as well as the days of blessing of the cathedral written in the ancient Rus church calendar, November 4 and May 11, enabled scholars to conclude that the St. Sophia's Cathedral was constructed by Volodymyr the Great on November 4, 1011. On this occasion, the foundation gravel was blessed. The building of the cathedral was finished by his son Prince Yaroslav the Wise. The blessing of the altar was held on May 11, 1018. Moreover, Sophia of Byzantine was being built over 7 years, which served as a prototype of St. Sophia in Kiev. Nadia Nikitenko's opinion is supported by one authoritative Ukrainian historian, Doctor of Historical Sciences Vyacheslav Korniyenko. The hypotheses of two historians were perceived to be convincing enough for celebrating 1,000 years of the establishment of the St. Sophia's Cathedral in 2011. The explanation of Ukrainian specialists appeared to be decisive for UNESCO to bring the decision for this celebration to the international level.